Chapter 50 to 51. Last night was too intense for everyone involved. Goku was sleeping next to Caulifla as she looked up in the ceiling compiling her thoughts. It wasn't the best induction to the crew, but then again, they took the pressure out of her own hands. The shower in the room others turned off from its high pressure and steamy goodness. Chi-Chi walked out of the shower in her birthday suit with her hair standing on end with a towel. Your bed isn't big enough for all of us, so Bulma, and I will go and sleep in our bed. You get to get him all for yourself hot stuff. But tomorrow you are sleeping with us. And with that, she wiggled out of the door and into the hallway. Shaking her head, Caulifla snuggled closer into Goku's embrace and fell quickly into slumber. Everything was normal and smooth in the household so far. Life fell back into a routine 6 months after that hectic day in outer space and on the home front. Goku training as usual in his gravity room, with the gravity amped up to 200. That Super Saiyan activation really upped his ceiling, allowing him to reach new heights even further. That was really notable was Kale and Caulifla's growth. Goku couldn't believe that they grew up and are steady on par with Vegeta, even with all his dedication. After hearing what had happened on Earth, he couldn't believe his ears. Not only did 2 villains from the movies showed up, but at the same time, something definitely isn't right. Just as he was going over this in his head, he heard a ring coming from the front door. I got it. You got up from his seat watching TV and went to open the door. There you are, brother. I heard you were back. Raditz greeted Goku with a smile on his face. Raditz felt weird living in the Capsule Corp house with women and children, especially his brothers, so he left to live in Goku's old house. Sorry I didn't get to meet up with you. Chi-Chi told me that she messaged everyone, so I was about to plan a meetup. Don't worry about it. Anyways, I have to tell you something. You are leaving? Goku was sitting in the kitchen table with Bulma, Gohan, Bulla surrounding him listening to Raditz's reason for leaving. Yeah, I am going out to space. Now that Frieza is gone, there are not that many organizations that will hinder my plans to really explore and grow stronger in the journey. Cheated. Worst. That is what Raditz felt like from going on missions with Vegeta to even now. Vegeta, Caulifla, and Kale already caught up to his meager power level, and Goku's kids were catching up with their crazy potential and their dad's regimen. The only time he felt that he accomplished something meaningful was when he beat Nappa. He was hoping this trip will provide some insight and more. I wanted to tell you before I leave. I could just take one of the spare fighters in Cooler's spaceship. Wait, Uncle Raditz, you are leaving? No, don't leave. The little kids, believe it or not, got a little closer with their uncle. Too bad it could not be the same for him. I finally get to leave these little grimy hands. Good thing I didn't mention that they were also one of the main reasons. Sure. Goku understood and gave Raditz the capsule that contained that massive ship. They all said farewell with Chi-Chi, Kale, and Caulifla. They didn't really have much enthusiasm, but the gesture is what counts. The small spaceship filled with supplies faded out of view into a galaxy far, far away. 3 months later. So you really do love him? Even after what he did to you? Kale, I told you that it isn't his fault. Besides, it's not like I didn't like it. Caulifla. Kale and Caulifla were talking together in Kale's room with their privacy. Kale knew that Caulifla was officially part of that blasted Goku's harem 3 months ago. But today was the day Caulifla finally told her about the finer details of that day. Still that little. She stopped abruptly when she saw Caulifla's stern look. She didn't want her closest person on this planet to drift further away from her. As long as you are happy, I knew you would understand. Caulifla hugged the ever-living life out of Kale. Kale blushed a little and hugged back awkwardly. She regretted it little when she went on and on about Goku and their life together. The dates, the talks, the sex. Do you really not have any attraction towards him? That ape form really gets me every time he does it. No, I don't really have a romantic interest in him. That sucks. It would definitely be a lot more fun in the bedroom with you in it. The wide-eyed expression on Kale's face was picture perfect. Too bad Caulifla was a second late to catch it. She may have thought what she said was something casual, but it was something to take into serious consideration from the other side. Yeah, a lot of fun. So what has everyone been up to? Today was the yearly meetup that they scheduled, so that everyone gets together. Of course, they visit each other days of the year, but this way some of the more busy people can come and catch up. Apparently Launch found Tien and probably forced him to see her as a woman, and they are dating now. Speaking of dating, I see that you brought someone else with you. Mind introducing us? When posed with that question, Krillin introduced the person sitting next to him to the entire group. Oh yeah, this is Marin, my girlfriend of 2 months. She is a supermodel, isn't that cool? Yamcha grumbled in silence about the trap that Krillin got himself in, while everyone else greeted the young lady. You are talking to me? Yes. Krillin asked me out. He is the strongest guy that I met so far, and I just love dominant men. For some reason, everyone looked at Yamcha questioning if the 2 guys should even be in the same room. Krillin leaned over to Goku's ear in the couch beside him and whispered in his ear. Thanks for the advice last time. It wasn't much, but it really helped me realize how awesome I am. I approached her, and after showing her my skills, she never looked back. Notice that she doesn't say anything bad about me being short? Although she doesn't think sometimes, I maybe plan to wife her. I am glad to hear it. I wish someone can talk to Caulifla about it too. She refuses to marry me because she thinks it is stupid and pointless. I don't think marriage was really a thing back on my planet. They both looked across the house to see Rashi getting mauled by Caulifla after she tried to grope Kale's unoccupied butt. Another girl to have problems with Sometimes it is good to just have one. It was time to head home. Goku got up to put on his jacket and told Caulifla and Kale the time. It was the evening, but Bulma wanted them back to test some new equipment. Everyone else decided it was time to leave as well. Rashi shrugged, plopped onto the couch where Krillin was sitting, and turned on the TV. This isn't the exercise program. I mean the sports program? Breaking news. A helicopter was flying high above a city. The city looked like a ghost town from their angle, with wide pans across the city. The Chiron on the bottom read out something disturbing, however. City residents mysteriously disappear, leaving homes and streets empty. Over 200,000 missing. Missing people. This is way too early. Where are the androids? Isn't Vegeta's pride supposed to be stomped on literally by Android 18 first? Has to be Cell. I have to check this out really fast, Caulifla and Kale. You two go back and tell the others that I won't be long. Goku quickly dashed off from the island and headed straight towards the city to capture Cell and snuff him out before he got too powerful. In the back of his mind, he knew he should have been more proactive in seeking Dr. Gero, but he was too elusive. By the time Goku was able to cover the entire Earth in his range, Dr. Gero's key was already masked by the veil of metal. Even Bulma's extensive satellites, and the such could not find Dr. Gero and his mind that is able to par hers. Arriving at the city, he got there so fast that the helicopter that was broadcasting live was still above him. Not caring too much about it, he started to inspect the city in more detail. He peeked inside the abandoned cars, the streets, and the buildings. The quietness gave it an eerie feeling, but Goku was, instead of feeling creeped out by the ghost town, was confused. The MO of Cell is definitely missing people, but their clothes are missing too. What does this mean? Is it really Cell? If Cell really came down here for an afternoon snack, anyone would hardly think that he also left the clothes on them for added taste. Where are the clothes? We are dealing with missing people. Presumably they would take their clothes with them. Looking over at the new voice, Tien came flying down next to Goku to greet him. After hearing about what happened on the news, I came over to check on this unusual case. I thought it would be something over your radar as the most powerful man on Earth. Tien's smirk and tone gave away his playfulness. Good one, three-eyed Baldy. I thought they would leave something like a purse, or anything if they got snatched out of the blue. That's why I was questioning, clothes. Right. With Tien on his side, together they were looking for clues around the city. All they came up with was more of nothing much to Tien's surprise and Goku's displeasure. Let's call it a day for now. We will find who did this eventually. Unfortunately, that day would never come. 1 year later, it has happened on 3 more separate occasions, albeit on smaller scales than the one previous. Goku traveled as fast as he could to each one, hoping to catch the perpetrator responsible. It seemed as if he was seconds too late to save the towns from their disappearance. Maybe with a stroke of fortune, when he heard of one disappearance happening in real time and left immediately. By the time he got there, as usual, there was no contraption sucking people away from their homes. Goku almost gave up and debated, using the Dragon Balls to locate this person, risking another step closer to Shadow Dragons, until he heard some faint noises inside a building. Going to the apartment building, he found it was locked from the inside. Not that it really mattered, as there was a giant hole in the wall next to the door. Entering, a bullet whizzed through the air and missed Goku's head by an inch. Inside the building, there was a small crowd of people huddling in a corner, with a security officer in the middle of them. In his hand was a pistol shaking uncontrollably. It's Goku, strongest under heaven. He came to save us. A random person in the crowd recognized him, loosening the tension everyone else was feeling at that moment. You people survived one of the disappearing towns, tell me. What did you see? The officer who was standing up finally fell to his knees after loosening the tension on his legs. He spoke up and couldn't help but trip over his words from the trauma. It was unlike anything I ever have seen. There was a woman. Her eyes were filled with pure evil. She sucked everyone up with this strange contraption behind her. I didn't really get to see what it looked like. I ran into this building as fast as I can and met up with people here. The wall was blasted open, through a bomb or something, and she was about to get us too, until she noticed something and escaped at a speed faster than any car I have seen. That was a lot of information. It is now confirmed not Cell, since the person was identified as female. Actually, since she was identified as female, this could be attributed to a few. Android 18. No, she wouldn't do this. Maybe someone from the movies? Zangya? This isn't her either. Who would do this? Do you know what way she left to? The shaky police officer pointed straight outside from where the hole was. North it seemed. Hitting the earpiece, he spoke to the person on the other side. Chi-Chi, I am heading north. Seems like the person's base is somewhere in that direction. Radio in if something comes up. Turning off the earpiece, he flew straight north, keeping an eye out everywhere. He flew over other cities, mountains, forests, and deserts until he stumbled upon something that looked rather strange. In all his years of being one with the wilderness like Tarzan, he never once has seen such prime flowers be ignored by bees. Watching it a little more closely, he saw that bees weren't attracted to these certain flowers, while the same kind of flowers was basically being molested by them. Chi-Chi, these are my coordinates. Did anything happen in this stretch of forest recently? That is showing up on the records. There was a wildfire at the other edge of the forest that sparked randomly. The fire department from the nearby city was able to combat it with relative ease. That's about it. Going up to the tree, he knelt down to inspect the flowers. Touching them with his hand, he felt the lushness of it. Smelling them, they smelt refined and beautiful. As would any after seeing such flowers, he started to dig them up. I'm digging a hole. Diggy diggy hole. Much to his suspicion, the flowers had no roots at all, meaning it wasn't a real flower, no matter how much it felt like one. Standing up and knocking the tree a bit with his knuckles. It felt like real bark, but just in case. Eat this tree. Goku's fist went straight through the tree, its metal insides, revealing itself to be hollow and extend deeper underground. A chuckle escaped through Goku's mouth. Typical villain underground hideout. -1 in creativity. Jumping down the pit, it was surprisingly deep. Eventually, the dirt transitioned itself to metal. Landing on a piece of metal while still surrounded by metal walls, Goku broke down even more layers under him and dropped down into an elevator. Looking around the dark room, Goku could barely see a thing. Using a ball of ki as a light source, the room he found himself in was filled to the brim with computers, books, and scattered paper everywhere. Picking up one of the papers, it was notes on a bunch of gibberish that he could not understand. Most of it was scratched off, so that didn't help his case. No matter how passionate Bulma was in her research, that same stuff could not apply to him as well. At bottom of the paper, he was able to see who it was created with the signature. He couldn't read the first name, but the last name was something he was familiar with. Jero. Placing the piece of paper back on the table, he was about to advance further down this metal structure. A single bulb of light illuminated itself in the hallway he was about to move forward in. He felt an unfamiliar, yet familiar, ki swell in front of him, indicating someone was there. Goku stopped and waited patiently for this person to arrive. Coming forward into the light, it was someone who was quite ugly to look at. Green in color, looking more like an alien than Piccolo, the light reflected Cell's features back to Goku's retinas. After listing him as someone who didn't do the spree of missing people to him, showing up in front of him was a slap to the face. Goku didn't want to feel like a one-time villain that would be face-slapped for the plot, so he changed his thinking a bit. Well, it is obvious it wasn't Cell, but past that point, what is this? Standing in front of him wasn't just a normal first-form Cell. It was second-form Cell.